call to order the special select board meeting for 11 a.m. on Tuesday, January 17th. We have one item on the agenda, and that is finishing, hopefully, the budget. Is there any public comment wanted to be made by anybody? I see none and I hear none. So we move on to review and consider final approval of fiscal year 2024 town budget. And we have copies. And we've done a lot of work already, so this should be efficient.
Hello.
Hi. That's the other subject for you. I also emailed it to you.
Awesome. Did you just want to talk about the sheriff contracts? Because we did get some feedback from.
Yeah, I just read that email.
Jennifer reached out to the sheriff.
We can do that.
That is line 145. So the hourly rate is going to 65 this year. And then we put in for 10 hours a week, so that would be 38,000. Did you get a chance to see the sheriff's response?
I did see that. So. Yeah. Thank you.
I guess
Yeah,
we talked about
I was not, I thought we could invest in more of the automated things. And I wasn't enthused about the sheriff. But, you know, his email I thought was packed with a little information. And I'm wondering if the people of the town of Underhill would like more presents. I don't know. If they want to spend that much more money. I don't know what the others think.
If we want to spend more money?
So are you thinking, Dan, of increasing the Linky spend?
I don't know what's on the table. What are we suggesting? Or I know we were getting feedback from them. And I know that the bill has gone up because the rates have gone up, which is normal.
So we put into the budget after this discussion. Sorry, I'm interrupting, but
No,
just to move things along.
Okay.
We had added in, we increased it from 6 hours to 10 hours a week. And then we added 2 more signs. It seems like the response from the sheriff, in my opinion, the way I read it, interpret it, is he feels that those signs are worthwhile, but that you can't exist with just those signs. You really need to know ultimately that there is going to be a police presence with some enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it sounds to me like he's saying, well, if you can afford more hours, you should do more hours, but that he also feels that the signs are worthwhile. So it kind of, I think, supports what we're saying, which is for this year, increasing it from the 6 hours to 10 hours a week, which is adding time, and the 2 new signs. So that's what's on the table right now.
So I don't know if everyone was present when Sheriff McLaughlin came. He was the prior sheriff before Dan Gamlin. But it seemed like, if I remember right, he recommended 20 hours a week. I'm not proposing to do that, but he recommended 20 hours a week, and that's what they do for Westford, apparently.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he would do that.
Sure.
I mean, he's marketing.
Yeah.
And I'm disparaging for that. But I think that we could have that on the back burner and do the 10 and see what that does. I mean, we are adding time. And we are adding signs. And if we don't need to add more signs next year, we have more money to add time.
Is there
If we bulk up on signs,
any benefit in the revenue, or is that negligible?
Very negligible.
Okay.
It's a few $100s a month.
Where is his line item for, what line is it?
Line item 145. Under purchase services after public safety.
We've spent.
Here's right.
Same amount of money
Budget actual.
year after year.
And yeah, so in 22, we ended up spending about 19,000. This year, we were at 8,000 the last time I did this, but they're always a month behind. So it's probably closer to 10,000 now, which is halfway through the year. So, I mean, it'll probably be about 20,000 for this year. And we're proposing that we add that time, which would increase it to 38,000 or an $18,000 increase over this year.
They're also not just running speed control, you know, they go out like when we've got high wind events or flooding events, they're out checking the roads too
do
sometimes.
they have other revenue that covers that on
I
towns?
think so.
Yeah, because they must.
They have special funds that they use for different purposes also.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right, like the speed sign, when they can hook up the speed sign, the big cart,
Yeah.
they can justify a certain, based on traffic tickets, I think they can put in for that. That's part of the governor's highway system, safety system or something.
I think a lot of people definitely respond to the blinky lights. I do. I go into the town of Jeffersonville and slow right down, right at the blinky light, because that's telling me to. I think a combination of, we'll have some new blinking lights with a little bit more stepped up sheriff enforcement, 10 hours a week. And then maybe next year or the year after, we start pulling back on the sheriff enforcement if we feel like the speed has, the people are paying more attention to the blinky lights. That would be my thought. We double down this year, a couple of blinky lights and a little bit increased hours of sheriff time. And then in the subsequent years, we can pull back on sheriff time.
You gotta be right to that point.
I don't think we'll ever.
Not.
I don't think
Or
you'll
not.
ever be able to pull back on the time.
I think
Because
I
you gotta have-
think reevaluate, see what happens. I think there's
Exactly.
I think there's a positive step forward. You get a lot of phone calls from folks saying that, traffic, speeders are out of control. So this does, two things. We increase the amount of time the sheriff is here, and we're putting up these reminder speed signs that are kind of fixed, and hopefully that will make a change in the traffic going on some of the areas that we've identified as problem areas, and we'll evaluate and see what happens next year.
Absolutely. We'll reevaluate. I wouldn't say I'm committed today to next year reduce the hours,
Right.
but we'll reevaluate. And if it looks like people have generally slowed down, then we can consider a lower number of
Or
hours.
what other options we might, I'm good.
Okay. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I like that whole idea.
Line item 57. We didn't talk about that, but I guess I'd like to talk about it. Are we going to adjust that to be in line with everyone else getting an 8.7?
You can't.
Can we put that on the ballot for the voters?
I think that has to be off the floor, correct?
Correct, I do believe so.
Yes. Well, I mean, since you'd be speaking for yourselves, kind of like us speaking about the salaries, this is something that came up last year, and the staff, when we talked about it, we went and put in the increase for the select board position because we realized how integral it is to running the town. But then this came up at the last year also, was it has to be something that's voted on from the floor. So,
Someone could make just a motion to amend the line, right? It doesn't have to be on the ballot.
It can't be on the ballot, it can only be
Okay.
done from
The floor. So someone could,
Make a motion.
Not one of the three of us.
It cannot be.
no, obviously, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure it's been done, but.
No, I'm fine. I'm just,
well,
Yeah, I think you're right.
we'll make sure that happens. We're allowed to, right? I mean, yeah, okay. Duly noted.
$500 last time. Got brought up on floor. Used to be $1,000 a person.
line item 224. I met with the road crew, and it wasn't cold. It was not received cold about the CDL training. So I'm taking that as a positive. They didn't say no. So I would like to add money to that line item in the event that we are going to develop a trainer type program for people for a CDL or for various other training opportunities that may come up, like basic welding or any other type of training that may be out there. Because we do have a new hire, and I don't think $200 is going to go very far as mileage or for the actual classes themselves. So I would like us to, look at that that line item.
Do we know how much that costs for that CDL?
I don't think Aaron gave us an idea, did he? I know, like, if we hire someone that doesn't have a CDL, it's going to cost us $5,000 or $6,000 just for them to get trained elsewhere. So we may want to put that in as a placeholder, that if we do not find someone and we're going to hire them without a CDL, that we know that we're going to be having to come up with that kind of money. So we may want to increase that in anticipation of, and we have new hires that may need to have some training in whether it be welding or using a chainsaw or what other various topics that may come up for new folks that may be applicable. But I don't think that $200 is going to necessarily cut it. I just don't know what the magic number is that we should probably plug in there. If we should put in there $1,000, and
Should cut it. You used to have to pay for classes, you don't anymore through the VLTCs.
right, but does like VLTC offer like a welding class?
Yes, they do. But you don't pay for them anymore. Very seldom do we pay for them. There's a few special niches that you pay for, but I would say 3/4 or 7/8 of them, you just sign up for the class and it's
That's part of our
free.
membership.
Correct. It
How about-
used to be 5 years plus ago, but most recent ones you don't.
How about CDL training?
CDL would be different.
It's different.
Yeah, that's done.
Okay, just wanted to check.
So I don't know if we want to put money in there for that, or if we want to just roll the dice and hope that, everyone that comes in the door is going to have that level of training. And then the other question that came up when I met with them is that there's a difference in CDL training, like as far as like, they may have the CDL with a B endorsement, which allows them to drive like the dump truck. But if they're going to be responsible for moving the equipment, which requires a trailer, and pulling a piece of equipment with the trailer, then they would need like an A endorsement on their license. So would they then have to get any specialized training to get the A endorsement on their license? And if so, what does that cost? Where if we have someone in-house that's going to act as, the trainer, and we pay them an additional stipend for being the trainer, then would that defray that? We're kind of training someone to take on, or a couple of them to come up with that level of expertise and then be able to get everyone up to that level that wants to be at that level. Because if we're going to be buying a trailer and a new excavator, and, now we're going to have to move it from various locations throughout the town. So I guess I just bring it up as, do we want to address the elephant in the room?
So my impression on the CDL training is that, yes, it would provide for us, in the case we need it, for one of our employees, but it's also a moneymaker. that it isn't?
No, I don't think we
That's
can,
not the way-
I don't think we can
So the way,
engage in that.
the way,
No, it's not.
it would only be for our employees. It wouldn't be like a money making, like,
But
we would
can't
offer
have-
like a CDL class for anybody in town. It would be just for town
No,
employees.
no, I mean like another town.
No, but that's how we get the exemption, I guess is what Bob's trying to
Yeah,
say.
we
We
can't-
get the exemption to become trainers because we're training our own people, and that's it.
We're not training the town of Jericho if they had somebody or the fire department
Oh,
or
I
anything like that.
misunderstood the program.
Yeah, it's only for in-house candidates. So if you wanted to get your CDL as a town employee,
Probably could.
you know, you probably could do that.
Oh, yeah,
If you chose to want
I'll
to.
get on that.
Well, we might need to have you out there. You
Yeah.
never know.
So the training, so the question is, to become a trainer, does it cost money to become a trainer?
Well, that's why
guess
I
don't
didn't
know
see that in that information that Aaron sent. You know, as far as how much, you know, I'm sure there's going to be some cost. I just don't know. And maybe, I mean, I can try to call Aaron now to ask him real quickly if he knows the figure off the top of his head, because I know he's having to deal with this at the school district. And if we want to plug in a number for that.
What, do you anticipate somebody leaving?
No, or
Just
if
in
we,
case they
or
leave,
we have to hire someone, and it's becoming evident to me that we've had a position open on the road crew, and we haven't been able to find anyone, and the recruiter has told us that, due to our salaries, that we're offering, that we're not finding candidates, that have a CDL, and that we'd have to train someone to bring them on board. So if we're going to do that, then we would have to pay as a town, we would have to pay to have them sent somewhere to obtain this type of level of training, or we could invest in our own team and have our own team be able to do that, so that if we do have someone that you know comes forward, that we would be able to take care of that. So I'm of the opinion, like, I'd rather, if we're gonna spend money, I'd rather invest the money in my own team and have my own team be able to be more valuable to the town, and then, you know, whatever life throws at us, we should be able to, you know, try to handle it in-house before we go outside.
So now my impression is, tell me if this is right, that once you would do the money and get trained as trainers and we can train our own team, it doesn't mean that we would have to put that money in the budget the next year because we'd all be up to snuff.
I would think that would be true, and I think it would be less. The first year would probably be the most expensive, but then after that it would be less.
Unless they only train one person who's our trainer, and that person leaves or isn't available when we need to train someone.
Whatever.
I don't know how it works.
I thought there was multiple trainers.
You could get multiple people to train them. They just have to have so many years with a CDL, as the conversation I had with Aaron Little.
For the same price?
It's my understanding is almost like it's an online type of course, type of thing that through, I don't know, it's through the Fed or who it's through. And then once they have gone through that, they might have the practical station where they have to go out and meet with someone. I don't know if it's with the state or whatnot. And then they would be endorsed as the trainer type of, or they're now an instructor for this CDL. So then somebody new can go through the town's, you know, CDL course, and then once they put in so many hours or whatnot, then they can go and take the test with the state and obtain their CDL license. There has to be a level of education component now, is my understanding, before you can take the test to get your CDL. It used to be you could just go and take your CDL, and, you know, if you knew your way around a big piece of equipment, you know, that'd be great. But now those days are over. Now you have to have so many hours of education before you can, you know, do that. And so this is what this would provide, is that, you know, we would have somebody in-house that would be, you know, looked upon as being a valid instructor.
The price we do know is about $5,000 to send someone to a CDL school. So you could put that in there in anticipation of worst case scenario.
I would think it would be less. It wouldn't be more than $5,000 if we got one out of the four that we currently have now to be a trainer. And then once they are the trainer, then my hope would be is that they could get all the rest of them, if they don't have the endorsement, a CDLA endorsement, that they would be able to assist with being able to get everybody up to get that level, so that when we do need to move the excavator from, Pleasant Valley to Poker Hill, that it doesn't always have to be Dwayne that does that. It could be any one of them that would be, have that certification to be able to take care of that.
Nate, do you know off the top of your head what everybody has for license? Like
3 Bs, 1 A.
3 Bs and 1 A.
Dwayne's the only person that can haul the excavators.
All right, so there is some advantage of having, we could get everybody up to an A class.
I think so. It's just a matter of,
So,
But why don't we do this? Let's put 5,000 in, worst case scenario.
yes.
The
Because
goal
we
is
need
not to
move
hit 5, but in the event we can't get the trainer done, and
And we have to hire someone.
we hire somebody without the CDO,
Yeah.
so we have it covered.
perfect.
So need a motion to amend line 224.
Motion to amend line item 224 to, in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
It'll total $5,000. That line will total.
Right, well, total $5,000, and that is in anticipation of having an in-house candidate or candidates become CDL trainers for the town of Underhill.
We have a motion on the floor and it's seconded. Is there any discussion on that motion further?
One more.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries 3-0.
Great idea.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
Just on that subject, I know when I first started, there was always talk about the select board reimbursing the employee for the cost of the licenses, because they are pretty expensive every 4 years, and that's never happened.
Good point.
Because that's an out-of-pocket
Yeah,
expense for
exactly.
the employees.
Okay.
To renew your license.
Correct.
So when that
That's
come
a good
under licensing, do we have a licensing line item? Because we're
No.
paying professional licensing now for others. I would think like that would be a
Submit it.
professional.
Yeah, submit it with your pay timesheet with your, as an expense.
How much is it for a renewal,
Reimbursable
just
expense.
roughly? A few hundred or?
It's under 200, I just gotta say, 160-ish or something there. I can't remember it. But it's under
Right.
200.
And certainly, if we are doing that for others, I think that that's a good
Yeah,
observation.
I think we should
Yeah.
be explicit and make that in the record. Do you guys agree?
No, I'm kind of surprised we're not doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I am too.
All right, good suggestion, Nate.
You're the one that made the motion for a few years back, but it never got done.
so
I-
what
Really?
can I
Back quite a
make a
few years
suggestion
ago.
that
Oh, yeah,
you
that
change
was a
the
decade ago.
training line 224
Yeah.
to training and
That's a no-brainer.
licensing?
Yeah.
Training
And
license, yeah.
Training and licensing.
Okay.
Of course, we don't know what their cycle is as far as renewal, but then add,
Is it- It's not every year.
no, he
Every
said
four.
every
Every
4
4.
years, and we don't know when.
So add 1,000 to this training. and-
So amend it to,
Six.
so motion would be, take line item 224 and change the title to training and licensing,
Yes,
and amend the total line item to be $6,000 total.
And a friendly revision suggestion for your motion is to make it explicit that the CDL, those that have CDLs are eligible for reimbursement in that licensing, so that it's in the record that that's clear.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay with that?
Jeez, yeah.
Let's not do it till 25.
So we have a second.
I'll make the motion. You want to
I'll
second it?
second that without amendment.
And do we have further discussion on
Wait, that would be full.
No?
it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 3-0.
Can a letter be sent to all those with CDLs to put that in front of them and their paychecks or however appropriate?
I will include that with the paychecks that go out this week.
Okay.
So
That way they have
So we want
something
to
in
do
hand.
that starting July 1. When this budget gets approved, then we will start to, start the reimbursement process starting July 1. Or are you suggesting
I
that we
would
do that now?
immediately. I think that That's
It's up to you, but I mean, I still need a couple $100 and it makes a difference, then I would say just start right away and I'll send them a letter and say, from
Effective
here
immediately?
forward, effective immediately, please submit your CDL, license renewal for cost for reimbursement.
Yeah, I would suggest anybody who's in this fiscal year is eligible for CDL reimbursement. So if I just paid mine last week, I should still be eligible for that. I just think it's a fairness thing.
That isn't difficult to have that money coming out of the current budget.
Well, we know it's not Nate because his isn't due till 25. So worst case scenario would be $600
Right.
If they all were due at the
if
same
they were
time.
all due. Yeah.
Exactly.
What about the temporary employees?
You got money covered in there because you're not paying me this year, so we got one extra in there.
So I'm just saying, temporary employees, are you gonna also do
These are
there?
full-time employees, not intended for,
Or just,
I would think,
It's a good question.
I don't
Just
think
so
it'd be
it's clear.
intended, it would
Then
not
we
be
have to-
intended for.
Because temporary employees aren't necessarily there all year. And it would depend on when their CDL renewal falls, and that would be hard to keep track of.
Full-time.
I think it would be a full-time benefit for the full-time employees, not.
yeah, I just wanted to make it clear for the record.
It's a good question. It's like, I want to pay a CDL fee if they're going to go work for, the next town over the other half of the year.
Maybe you do. Just kidding.
Stay with us full time.
I'm just seeing if there really weren't a lot of adjustments. The other one, line 155, well monitoring, that's just to reflect the actual that came in last week. It went from 9,000 to 9,330 for the well monitoring, not a big deal.
The mapping, you wanna bring that up?
Yes.
171?
The mapping, line 171, that came in lower, so that 17,000 reflects the 12,000 for the second year of the natural resources inventory, and also the 5,000 for the upgrade to the imaging that we discussed for the overhead GPS imaging. So
Yeah, so the orthophotography
Came
was
in
gonna
lower.
cost well, first of all, it was 5,000 or 4,700, then it went to 12,000, now it's back. So 5,000 will cover that,
Okay.
so that's good news.
You'll see line 214, we added the $16,000, which was what you discussed, which was discussed last week at the select board meeting, which is the CCRPC grant match
Mhm.
for the sidewalk study. And then in line 230 for contractor miscellaneous, we added another 5,000, and that is for, help me,
What are you gonna do, Nate? This is on Harvey Road now?
shooting, it's like shooting
Shooting
grade.
the grades.
Yeah.
We discussed in the infrastructure to shoot all the way from Harvey all the way down to Cess to get a profile. And then if you ground some of that out and put it back in, would you fill some of those humps and bumps? But if you had a true reading of what the road lays, then you would know where to do the fills.
So that would be work for the Pleasant Valley paving, which is slated for the next year.
Yeah.
It'd be informational to have
Right.
prior to the paving.
Right. So that's from 144 to Harvey Road.
My recommendation, if you'd like to hear it, that work should be done by a licensed surveyor, not an engineer. So I would not recommend using East Engineering for that work. You want someone that is not gonna come out with some subpar mapping grade GPS unit. There's control on the site that I've established. They can use that, and it should be done by a surveyor. That's my only suggestion.
If we only knew one.
No, not me, but it should be done by a surveyor. Elevations there's a lot of, we've gotten into a lot of problems with having engineers doing surveying work, and I could name a bunch of them. So I think you'd get a cheaper price than 5,000, but if you want to keep 5,000 in
Just a
there,
ballpark.
that's fine. Fine.
Throw
I think-
something in there.
I think you could get something very, very reasonable done, so.
Mhm.
But Anyway,
So those are the only other additions to the budget. What I wanted to do before we ask you guys to approve the budget is I wanted to just, and I don't know, maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse. I don't know if we should do that before we talk about this, but I wanted to make sure, I wanted to take 5 full minutes to explain how the tax rate kind of flow works, because I think it's really helpful. And one of the things that
You want the equipment one when we're talking about it, or?
the equipment wouldn't be on there.
no. Oh, but did you have any new information about
Yes,
the,
it just came in.
Oh,
do you want to talk about that before this?
well, that's, so that would be, I did include that in here. But that would be, that is included in what I'm talking about, because those are the purchases, but they would be on the warning, not in the budget. So
Oh, right.
those
You're
are
right.
not budget related, but they do come into play with what, with this analysis that I wanted to just explain to you guys, because I think it's really helpful to understand. And going forward, I will plan several educational information sessions so that people understand this. But so that you don't get bogged down in this, because I think if you just look at it and don't get overwhelmed with all the other numbers, simply look at it as actual 21, actual 22, these are audited numbers. 23 is the budget we're in now. 24 is the one that we're projecting, which is the blue copy that you're looking at. If you just look at the total muni rate, which is the third column down there, those are the tax rates that are on the tax bill. So what you'll see is once you get to the year that's kind of prior to the year that we're looking at right now, that we're budgeting for. So when you look at 2023, you're going to look at the bottom where you see the expenses. When we put together the budget like we're doing now for 24, $3,093,000 was our total expenditure. But then when they had the votes on the floor, they voted to buy the truck.
Dump truck.
So our actual expenditures increased. So when we're
To 3,307,000.
to 3,307.
Yeah.
So things are a moving target. That's what we all need to understand. While we're doing this budget, things changed from when we set that last.
But once we set it, it can only be changed by the voters on the
Correct.
floor.
Correct.
And they also approved, for example, that extra position in the town hall, which we did not add.
Correct.
And so that is not included in expenditures, even though it
Correct.
was increased the budget.
We never increased the budget to reflect that. It was just approved. The one we did
Conceptual.
add in.
So when anything gets approved, it doesn't necessarily mean that the
Only if
budget goes up.
only if there's an actual dollar associated with it and we actually follow through with it. So
Like
the
a transfer to reserve.
right, transfer to a reserve or purchasing a vehicle, because you're then going to get the loan to
Gotcha.
purchase the vehicle. But we did put in our budget, the commissioner position was in our budget and we didn't spend that. So that is in there in that 33,07839 for 2023 in the budgeted number. So I just wanted you to see that. So if our actual number approved by the voters for 2023 is the 3,307,000, what we're projecting for this next year is actually almost $25,000 less. So your question to me should be, well, then why is the tax rate going up, right? How come if our expenses aren't going up, the tax rate's going up? Very simple answer. You can fund your expenses through pretty much 3 things: savings or reserves, loans, which is called debt capital, debt, using debt, or revenues. Our revenue source is taxes. So because we've depleted our reserves over the last several years, we don't want to go out and borrow more money that's going to increase our debt. next year, we have no choice but to go to our revenue source, which is the taxpayers. So that's why, even though our expenses, we're doing a great job of managing our overall expenses, we're asking for more money from the taxpayers. So that's what this exercise was intended for you guys to see, and for us to be able to explain once this gets published and we get to the point where we're going to start to educate residents who are interested in hearing about the tax rate before voting. We want people to understand why is the tax rate going up. So this exercise is intended to do that, and you can feel free to read over it and ask me questions. But I just want everybody to understand that, because these are the questions that people are going to ask you.
But then see what the projection does in 24. Did you get to that point?
3.7.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, that's very important. So if
Yeah.
you look at my bottom one, thank you, Brad. If you look at the bottom one on next year, if the taxpayers were to approve and vote at town meeting to buy the excavator and the trailer and the mowing machine, that would increase our expenses, and therefore the actual rate would be increase in expenditures would be 14.66%, rather than really what we're looking at without those of a reduction.
So each of those are going to be separate. The excavator
The excavator and the trailer
are
would
together
be
or separate?
together, because you can't do one without the other. And then the mowing machine and its accoutrements would be a separate one.
Okay.
So that's just kind of what I want everyone to see. And that's also why we need to budget. The other reason is we need to make sure we're budgeting to the best of our abilities with all the references we can get and all the resources and all the phone calls that Nate is making to give us real numbers. Because the only way that we're going to be able to run, and hopefully run with a small amount of surplus at the end of the year, so that we can start to build in our reserves, some money into reserves in the coming years, we're going to lose out on having that as our backup plan.
Right.
Some towns actually build into the budget. So if we wanted to put money into reserves, you can actually build into the budget a line item that says to capital reserve, and you can put in 50,000, raise taxes, add that to the tax revenue line, and get an extra 50 grand, which is 1%, so that we can actually start to build back our reserves. Just want you to have that information so that you can understand that, because there's implications with everything that we do going forward. So I don't think adding the $6,000 training is a big deal, but I just wanted to make sure I said that. And then Nate got some real numbers on the excavator too. So is it better news or?
260
260.
instead of the 200 we got in there.
Okay, so 260 plus the 40 for the trailer.
Correct.
So we're looking at 300,000 on that one.
Is that a brand new?
Yes, it is.
Nice.
And that's including, the trade-in.
Trade would be 30, but you could, there again, do you want to knock it because you don't know what the value is going to be when you do trade it? I guess it might decline a little bit.
So he's
Or you could sell it outright, either or.
But the price that you've gotten
What did he say?
is, it doesn't matter whether you are trading it or whether you're
The
keeping
price I
it.
got was without the trade.
260 just to buy it.
260 just to buy it.
So what would the price be if they took
500,000.
the equipment with the trade?
230.
But that 230 isn't contingent on them taking it or not.
Correct.
So we, in essence, we could,
So we're looking at a $300,000 loan, okay, to offset that. So that would be, our income would be coming in in the form of a loan, but that payment for that loan would happen starting in fiscal year 25 for 5 years.
None of this gets put on the budget.
And none of that would be on this budget that we're looking
Right.
to approve right now. it would be separate warning questions.
And did they, sorry to go back to that. So if we were to buy the excavator, if it was approved, when would we be able to take delivery of that? When would it be here?
Probably a year or better out.
So,
So if it gets approved in March, you'd order it in March.
and then we don't have to start paying for it until we actually take delivery of it?
It would be-
Until we take the loan out, yep.
Which we wouldn't take out till, it takes a few days.
I mean, you wouldn't pay, if we take the loan out, we're not gonna pay for it and then wait for it to be delivered. We would pay for it once we take delivery of it. We would order it, and then once it's been delivered, it's sitting in our dooryard, then we would pay for it
Mhm.
in full or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that loan.
And then
although it
1
would be
year from
approved-
that.
Right, it would be approved by the voters, but it wouldn't necessarily show up on the financials until
The
the
next
following,
fiscal year.
the following fiscal year.
Correct.
That's when Sherry gets the loan amount, she sends the results from town meeting that it was a question and the voters did approve it and it's in, and we're gonna put it in the budget.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the loan amount's gonna, or you don't know what the payments are gonna be or what the terms are gonna be until you get it.
Right.
And then the only, to throw another just slight wrench in this too, is that Nate's, he's building in, getting actual numbers, because what happened this year with the dump truck is, because it took so long,
There was a $6,000 increase in the price because of freight and steel prices.
which
Was
we,
There's no additional add-ons to this truck that you added on no. So it's whatever was,
Whatever was quoted, that's what we got. Yep.
Plus, the
so it's
extra
just
6,000.
steel inflation prices.
Yeah.
Hooray for us.
yeah,
So it's 300 for both of them. 260 and 40.
40. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So do we want to add more for those incidentals on the ballot? Because it's gonna be up to a certain amount.
Right, so I don't know what, add another 10,000 up to 310,000.
or do you want to do a percent so you can say, okay, we're building in X percent? Might be easier than just throwing a number. Like say, if we're saying it's going to be 300,000, build in
10%.
10%
330.
for anything that might happen in the 1 year that it takes for us to order and get this thing.
Okay.
All right, so what's the pleasure? 330? Up to 330?
Up to 330.
What about the tractor? Did we get any hard numbers on that?
Yes.
Yep.
260.
For
Seriously?
everything?
Yep.
Seriously.
Yep.
Yeah, boy.
All right.
That's right there. They, like I said, they got one in stock. But by the time it goes through town meeting, that one might be sold, and you're looking at another, they said, could be 30 or 35,000. They did not set a number. Yeah, they do have some more ordered, but it's gonna take a while for them to build and come in, so.
What's the make on this thing?
That was a Kubota. And, mower, the one with the arm was a Trans King that gets mounted onto it, the make of that.
So we should put another 10% on the 260 for the mower. Maybe 26K.
I don't
Well, that
think
will
we're
be
Well,
a good topic for a hearing where we can talk
Well,
about.
I think that's exactly right. I mean, if you don't want it, then that's fine. But I think that it's worth the conversation to say, if the cost analysis is not in favor of spreading that over 10 or 15 years or however long the equipment typically lasts and goes for it, then it's just like, well, then maybe it just doesn't make sense and we can continue to farm it out. But if it does, then it's just like, well, maybe we ought to think about having our own equipment and doing it ourselves.
the only thing is, it's the debt load that scares me, because you've got a $200,000 structures grant for 2025. You're gonna be looking at some big numbers here coming up for that bridge. I'm not sure what the total, any idea what the total was on the bridge job?
Right off the top of my head,
Well, can one wait? Can the excavator and the trailer wait? Can the tractor wait?
That'd be the question you'd have to ask yourselves.
You got a lot of work for the excavator. It's 25 years old. It's got almost 11,000 hours on it. You're gonna sink almost $10,000 or $12,000 into the current trailer you have now to try and repair it, to get it up for inspection.
We can't even use the current trailer.
It's inspected currently, but this next cycle that it comes around, you're gonna dump a lot of
And
money.
when does
into
that
it.
expire?
I think it's either August or October, I'm not positive. You'll get
So it's good timing.
The trailer you could get sooner probably than the excavator.
trailers they have in stock. It's not a problem.
So
All right,
They
so
have quite a few.
well, we'd have to do something else because that's rock and a hard place kind of scenario. Because if the voters did not approve the package, then we'd have to figure out a trailer.
Yeah, you have to farm out the trucking or something.
Well, why don't we split out the trailer? Have another item for the excavator, the trailer, and the tractor.
Or is the trailer by itself not something that needs to be a bond or
we're
a
gonna borrow the
town
money
vote?
for it, right? So
We could just put that in the budget. I don't know how much trailers cost.
40,000.
40 grand.
Okay. Yeah, that would not be a good thing to, the optics wouldn't be good on that.
Well, and you don't, it's my understanding that the trailer's only used really primarily to move the excavator.
Right.
What-
Probably, I
what
would say
Nate's saying is-
95% of the time. Once in a while, we rent a piece of equipment, a dozer, a roller, or whatever, and we use our trailer to move it. So, but majority of the time, it's just moving the excavator.
Of course, we could rent a trailer, couldn't we? I mean,
You wouldn't rent, you would hire somebody like Tatro to come in with their
Move
trailer
you.
to move you.
that would be cumbersome, don't you think?
Like we did with the grader, because our trailer wasn't heavy enough for the grader, so we
Right.
hired a larger trailer to move it to Richmond.
The new trailer that we got, would that be good for the grader too?
No, it's not heavy enough.
Okay.
20,000,
You need a super size.
So
it's
the-
20 tons, so it's rated for 40,000, the one
Yeah.
you're getting, and the grader's quite a bit heavier than that.
But if you're saying the trailer can't pass inspection, it would make sense to split the items up, just in case the trailer and the excavator got shot down together, then you've got no trailer. Now you're gonna have to sink money into this old trailer,
Right.
right? To
Well-
move our current excavator.
So we have a dozer,
No, when we rent one, other pieces of equipment or a roller.
so
we go
if
pick
you
it up.
rent a big one like a D8, they come with.
You wouldn't
the
get that on there. You would get that truck in. You're 80,000 pounds of
trailer.
it.
Yeah,
Your 4 axles on the trailer.
right, okay.
Plus you can have
Okay.
over width permits and stuff for that one there.
Mm,
Overweight.
So I think we should look at the budget for approval and then go to the ballot questions for Sherry, the articles, because those are kind of two separate things. One is approving the budget with the changes that we,
Well, I guess before we do that, can I ask the question of that? If the tractor is $260,000 and a lifespan of that tractor would be, is it fair to say that that would last 15 years?
Tractor's gonna last a long time. You're only putting, potentially 200 to 400 hours on a year. It's your mower that's gonna get the beating and pounding, and I don't know what the life cycle is at. We haven't got a real good answer, whether that's
Well,
8 or 10
so
years.
Of the 260,000, how much of that is tractor?
I do not know. I didn't get that split out.
So
We can find that out.
I guess I'm just kind of wondering, like, for, cost analysis wise, is it, if you take 260 and divide it by 20 years, that's $13,000 a year it would cost to have that piece of equipment, but, like
Not
you said,
including the interest of the loan.
right.
When you
Or
put
the,
man-
Or the employee,
or the hours,
maintenance.
or the maintenance, something like that, but, then how much are we spending currently on?
18.3.
18,000.
So is it conceivable to say, like, for $5,000, are we, I don't know, just to say we have it, is it costing us more money I know that there would be added benefits that we would probably find with having a piece of equipment of our own versus having to farm it out all the time, but is it worth it? And I guess I'm kind of second guessing myself is that, does it make sense to move forward with this tractor and the implement, or should we just continue to, hire it out?
Well, it makes sense.
Well, your
to put-
excavator and your trailer is a need. You definitely need those. We got a lot
Right,
of construction work coming.
Right, I'm
Where
not,
the tractor isn't as a necessity. You
That's-
know what I mean?
that's why I'm-
I hate to have
Revisit
the
it
tractor
next
go
year.
through and then the excavator and the trailer get shot down.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
that's why I'm bringing
This might
this
not
up
be the
now.
year to do that.
Right, and that's why I'm saying, maybe we want to forego the tractor this year.
I don't think you'd want to invest in the tractor unless you weren't going to invest in the extra time to use it, right? So if you're just going to get a tractor to do the same amount of time as Roberts is doing now, what's the point, right?
So, all right, so if we all agree to take that out and maybe look at this next year, but that will change some of these other line items because we beefed up other line items for the part-time employee and everything like that to take care of that. So if we back it out to try to have a more successful run with the taxpayers to buy into the excavator and trailer because that's more of a need than the tractor, then that's why I say
Yes.
we're having that conversation now so that you can back that out so we can crunch that figure and then we can talk about what articles you want to have at the town meeting.
So just to be clear, we would be subtracting out 400 hours at $25 an hour. That's what would be coming out.
I thought we cranked that to 6 or
400, I did 400 hours for the roadside mower.
okay.
It was 600 at 25.
Yeah.
And then I added another 400.
But,
Right, so-
really, if we had our own tractor, we'd still be paying that because we pay an employee.
All right. No, I had the
We
row
wouldn't
bears
pay
in there
as much.
separate.
No, we had roll bearers in there separate because we didn't know when we were going to be taking delivery, so we were going to be paying for it.
But I am, but that's a great observation, Nate. I would not want to jeopardize the voters' opinion on the excavator and the trailer.
Because if the excavator goes down and we have so much summer work, are you gonna
Yeah.
rent one or lease
Yeah,
one
we
to
don't want-
continue your
That would
summer's
be
work?
a
This
nightmare.
one
We don't
would
want to
break
do
down.
that.
I think we'll all agree
So I
that.
think that's
I think we're all in
probably,
agreement.
we can put the tractor on our, window, but,
And next
I
year
have a
on
fallen
20,
detector because I'm
FY
getting
25, there'll be a truck,
viruses and-
correct?
I can't get to where I need to
You're
get
gonna
to. I
need
can't
so a truck will be on the ballot next year.
mhm.
And that'll be it for, but there might also potentially be on there for a bond for this bridge work.
Bridge 7.
Yeah, well, Bridge 7 or the
Let's get
Harvey
it.
Road or Mountain Road.
Mountain Road.
Oh,
For a
Mountain.
bond or a loan, something,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of stuff stacking up next year.
And the work, the Pleasant Valley work, it's all gonna catch up. I think the pace is a little aggressive for a small town.
okay, I'm in favor of
So
putting that on.
if I remove that 400 times 25,
And do you have the other changes? The training and licensing, this is.
yeah,
at
I just
6?
did that one change. So just so you know, that line goes down to 15,000
Okay,
from 25 to 15. I can print out a new copy of this, but.
I don't think we need a printout, but if we had a final number, I think we could vote on it.
I'll give you the final number in one sec. So that one goes from 25 to 15. And then the other one that we're changing is the training line.
224, 36,000.
I do think the tractor's a good idea.
I do too. I
always-
think that there's conservation benefits, there's, control.
There's a time and a place, and I just don't think it's the right time.
Yeah, and thanks for, you were vetting that for a while, so thanks for that
So
observation.
we're changing it to training and licensing. Let me just do that so I don't forget.
No matter how we sell that, it might be a big bite for people to do an excavator and a tractor. Yep.
We'll keep it on the radar and when it makes sense to do, then put it in front of the voters.
Mhm.
Brad,
We can keep
you have a good
looking
point
around.
about how much debt we're taking on and just, we gotta time this a little bit.
A little bit.
And that's changing to 6. Oh.
Some things will drop off here.
That's the only changes. Okay,
Might be on your
I
shoulders.
changed
since
those
you're running
things,
again.
so,
What's that?
Might be on your shoulders.
so that,
Debt-wise, since you're
that
running again.
changes,
Being your
that changes line 279
Yeah,
is now 3,279,086. 3,279,086.
Hold on. 279, and the new number is
3,279,086.
3279.
086.
And it was
3,283,286.
Down a little bit.
327.
3,279,086.
Shouldn't it have gone down more than that?
We moved up the training.
No, because all you're
Licensing
doing
to
is
6.
pulling the.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
To 6K.
Sorry, we
We pulled down the
bumped
400 hours, so we got some coming down, we have a little bit
a
going
little
on.
bit going up. I forgot about the adding that.
so it was 3,518, and now it's 3,279,086.
Yes.
So we ready?
And
Anything else?
those are the only changes that I,
Unless things happen on the floor.
Correct.
do you want me to print this out for any reason?
Well, you're hoping it's gonna happen on the floor.
I don't care one way or the other. It doesn't light my candle one way or the other.
Well, you're hoping to change your expenditure for your salary for your select
It
board,
doesn't,
correct?
I donate most of my money anyway, so I'm just thinking that if you're gonna get people that wanna, give up their time and have money for their
I think it's a
babysitter and
good
stuff like that, I think it's
recruitment,
something you wanna be looking at, because otherwise, you're not going to get somebody, that's probably ever gonna be really interested in serving in this position.
What's a break even now coming in with your mileage, isn't it? Keep track of your mileage coming in.
Yeah,
going.
if I use my skateboard, I guess.
All right, we
Hitch
got
up those dogs.
Okay, so you guys do
Park them
that
out
thing.
front.
Okay. I will move that
Need a hitch
we
post?
adopt, what's the word? Approve?
accept or
Approve.
approve the budget.
Approve the budget, because we don't adopt it. Approve the budget for 327, or 3,279,005 or 86. Let me be clear.
Read that again, yeah.
3279086.
I'll second that.
Is there further discussion?
A lot of money.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 3-0. We have a budget.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Who moved,
I moved
Dan
it.
moved it, I seconded it.
I will, I'll send you all the updated copy that I just did here too. Just-
Thanks for your authority.
And I will upload that to the website today.
Very helpful.
So on the ballot, are we doing just the excavator
And the trailer.
and the trailer, and we're doing them separate?
Separate.
Correct.
And we're adding 10% to each one?
Yes.
Okay.
so just to be clear, 300 or 330 for the excavator. Right?
Correct.
And 40 for
330
the,
for the excavator. And that, well, you're shaking your head no, but 330 for the excavator, and then do you really need to add for the trailer, or do you think the 40 is?
He has
Need
no
that
control over
10%.
the freight and the steel, which is what
Okay.
got him
I'd
the
put
last
it
time.
10%.
So
maybe.
10% on the 40,000 would be 44,000. 45,000 sounds better. I don't know. Those are just numbers. I'm wondering if you want to entertain.
Okay.
45,000.
Okay,
and when does that have to, do they have to approve your warning too?
this will get approved when they sign the warning next meeting.
26.
Then we want to talk about, this emergency generator?
I did. I brought it up because the invoice is sitting in my inbox, and
So during the last storm, to be clear, the power was out at the town garage, and it was not looking good, that power was not gonna be restored for several days. So, Brad had called me on, the 23rd, saying that he had one that was available in Johnson, and I was scrambling to find one, around the same size for my parents, and actually bought a broken one, had it repaired. And this price was very comparable to what, I purchased, which was a Honda generator for, just over, $3,400, $3,600 possibly in Jeffersonville. And this is, a larger generator, a 6,000 watt generator. And it was 2862.86 from Johnson Hardware. So we now have in our possession a 6,000 watt generator that we can use for emergencies, whether it be, here at the town hall or at the town garage. I think that we should purchase this or approve this purchase, and we should also be looking into, having, a transfer switch so that we can not necessarily run the whole operation, but we can at least keep the lights on and the furnace and the well going for both locations so that, we can function in the event that we lose power for an extended amount of time. So I would move that we approve this invoice.
What is the, is this connected?
I'll second that.
Okay, is this connected to, how is this connected?
To what?
This generator?
we have no generator.
There's no emergency
No,
generator.
but the proposed generator.
How is this connected?
Well,
How
we-
would it be connected?
So we've actually, just to be clear, we purchased this, and I called Dan that day. Like we said, Nate thought the power was gonna be out for 3 days at the
Right,
town garage.
right.
This is the last generator Johnson Farm and Garden had, so we picked it up, Dan's approval, as a expense. We were in the process of, we were gonna hook it into the panel,
Okay,
right?
Yep.
We were gonna hook into the panel and just try to do some temporary rigging to get the power, or to get the heat on, and to get the heat and the water and the doors, I think, on. So there's nothing right now. The panel just sits empty. There's no transfer switch. The generator hasn't even been started. It was started, I just saw it ran when I picked it up at Johnson. So they started it for me. I saw it run. They shut it down. And
but the question is whether we're gonna buy this? You
Well,
approve the invoice?
we've kind of already bought it. I mean, we bought it. It's on the, you know,
I
I
guess
suppose you could return it, but I think it's past the return point.
I think it's something that we can always use. I think we should buy it. I think we should then, the next step will be is to hire an electrician to start working on having a transfer switch installed for the basics over to the town garage. Down the road, we can expand it to having a complete generator type system that can power the entire building. But this would be, I think, a good first step so that if we have another crazy weather event, that the town garage can at least function, and then we can work on possibly getting money set aside or put money and have a emergency transfer switch here so that we can at least have water and power here.
Okay, I just want to be clear, my concern is not with getting the generator, it's how it's hooked up for safety reasons, so we don't give carbon monoxide to the building.
Oh, it's gonna be outside. It's gonna be,
But,
I
right,
don't know that for sure.
you gonna bring it in your office?
You just assume.
gonna,
So the panel's right next to the door.
Gonna warm your office.
So I
we just need to be
understand.
very careful about it. There's so many deaths, every power outage,
I know.
long-term power outage, there's somebody in the state that dies from
Yeah.
carbon monoxide.
Yeah.
I want to be smart about it and not kill our employees.
It's also something that could be used if you had to do a remote project for any period of time also. I mean,
It's a portable kind of.
yeah,
It's on wheels. You can lift it. Two
Okay.
people can put it in a truck. 6,000. It's a good brand. I mean, I mean, you could certainly either sell, I don't think we could take it back at this point.
I'm not proposing, I
We
want
could
to
sell it.
I just want to be really
Yeah, yeah.
clear and
Oh, yeah.
loud about making sure we're hooking it to this building, if it's here, or to the garage building appropriately, so we're not asphyxiating our employees.
Right.
And we can have it all done by a licensed electrician so that the permits are, and it's installed properly.
Mhm.
So you have the means for connection and you have the proper transfer switch.
Ultimately, a nice generator setup, is gonna require a whole different transfer switch anyway, right? A big generator.
Yeah, but I don't want this small transfer switch being in the way of the permanent one.
It won't be. They'll rip that out of there. They're
You're just gonna throw money out there and do a hookup that you potentially might need, and then you're gonna put a permanent one in later. Is that my understanding?
Yep, and then you can use that, and you can use or sell those transfer switches because they're quite valuable to a lot of people. That's a very common thing.
Or we forget the town garage and we hook our transfer switch up right here at town hall. Then we have a
Well,
backup
that's
generator.
tackle one project.
Just
We need a consensus on the purchase of this generator that we did.
And where would you like it? I mean, it's
Where would
obviously,
you like the money withdrawn?
Yeah, where do you want-
Line item.
what line item? I mean, is this coming out of select board contingency? It's not something that was budgeted.
How much is it again?
$2,800, almost 29.
Where do we have the money?
And then
Select board contingency.
at what point do you do the transfer switch without
Or
it
you
being budgeted? You know what I mean?
Or you can take it from the,
Do you do it after July 1st, or you're trying to get the money from somewhere to do it now, or?
we have money in reserves for the buildings. This is part of the building for the garage and for here. We could also take money from there, right? If we vote to take the money from reserves to pay for this.
Mhm.
I would think that we would take money from reserves to,
Paid for the emergency generator.
right, and they authorize the installation of a temporary transfer switch and connection at the highway garage and see where we'll go from there.
I'll second that motion.
I think right now it's more critical that we keep get the garage up and going, and then
Agreed.
we can work on thinking it through more here.
Okay, so use of reserve fund for purchase of this
Emergency generator
emergency generator.
and
Transfer switch
the
installation.
appropriate transfer switch and connection by a licensed.
Would you get a large enough transfer switch that once it gets taken out up there, it can just come down here and be used? You know what I mean? So you wouldn't have to purchase another one once you do this building?
It's my understanding that there's different levels of transfer switch. And when you're dealing with just a small generator like this, and you're only plugging into a couple different things like the heater, and I don't think it's a big ticket item. It's a couple $100 if I understand correctly. But when you hook a Generac system or a Kohler, 30,000 kilowatt generator up, you're talking a totally different
No, but
switch.
what I'm trying to say is the temporary one we're putting in there, could you size it for this building, and then when we take it out, instead of throwing it out, use it down here, is what I suggested.
Yeah, that would be probably good forethought,
Mhm.
but also,
Size it for this building, yet use it in that as a temporary one, and then when we get done with it, it could get
I
transferred
think
down
and
here.
Patty you must know. I mean, doesn't the size of the generator kind of dictates the switch? I would
It
think,
does,
right?
it does. I mean, I'm not an
So-
engineer, I don't.
But it's a
not that-
rinky-dink generator. We're not talking a
This is, exactly, it's
30.
portable.
30 kilowatt.
Well, we
It's a
can,
portable. Regardless, even if if that switch does not fit this building, it's important that the garage is wired appropriately. So Nate, if you're not available and somebody's coming in, they're just not familiar with how to hook the thing up, that we're not doing it wrong. And I want to make sure that we're doing this appropriately.
Security, safety.
Exactly. Not everybody's familiar
but
with how to hook a generator.
it's gonna be fairly simple from the standpoint that you're gonna have one point where you're gonna make the connection,
Mhm.
the tie that you're gonna have a pad or the location where the generator is gonna be started at. You're gonna have the wire that's gonna
Plug it in.
plug from the generator
in.
into the building. and that wire goes along the building to wherever the panel is, and then someone's gonna have to manually throw that switch.
Mhm.
And then once that switch is thrown, then you are energized whatever emergency dedicated circuits we've said that we want to have for the garage to operate. And I'm assuming that that would be lights, garage bay doors, the heater, and the well,
Mhm.
at minimum.
So you'd have to
And
get
some
a,
outlets.
my understanding, you'd have to get an electrician in there to see how much amperage each one of these things draws to get the correct panel. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, whatever the electrician recommends, that's what should get installed. If we can use it here, great. If not, we'll figure out salvage value for it.
You gotta figure out what you're gonna need. You're gonna need the heat is paramount, the
Garage
doors, and the fuel pump.
Yeah.
Right?
Some lights and some outlets.
Lights.
Well pump.
Well, the well pump might draw a little bit, but
But you gotta figure out what you're drawing to see if the generator is even gonna do that. I
It
would
will
think.
be.
Correct.
My parents have a 5500, which is smaller than this, and that can do their.
But I'm not knowledgeable enough in that. You're gonna have to get an electrician in there to figure out, if we're gonna hook A, B, C, D on it, is it gonna be enough to run
Yeah.
off this
Right.
generator?
Right.
Exactly.
So reserve
Reserve dollars to pay for this.
to pay for the purchase of the emergency generator and transfer switch and connections by a certified electrician
Yes.
Correct.
or licensed electrician.
Yes.
That's the motion on the table.
Further discussion. All in favor?
When's the power gonna go out?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes.
Could be tomorrow.
Yeah, it
It's
sounds,
gonna be in about 5 minutes. You're gonna have to run the whole thing on the generator until the electrician can come over.
you're gonna have to stand out there and make sure it doesn't stall, because mine
I move
stalled
that
the
the
other
power
day.
will go out on.
We do have a, weather advisories
I know.
for like the next 5 days, so.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you have to go.
Interesting.
Yeah. Another dog.
So,
Sherry, was there anything else on the warning or that's it, right?
Seizure on the run.
so we are done.
Move to adjourn.
It's out of control.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Please stop the recording.
At 12:14.